Joining me on Impact Catalyst is Tammy Greer, who's the Executive Director of Gulfcoast Legal Services. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And not only that, but a neighbor.
Yeah.
Same building, a couple floors down from us.
Yeah, we just don't get the fancy shutters.
We don't get the fancy shutters, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into some of the struggles as of recent.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Gulf Coast Legal Services is a legal aid program. That means that we're basically just a nonprofit law firm. We don't do any criminal law. That's the public defender. We do civil, which means if you're having issues in family court, or if you're having housing problems or immigration or anything to do with your finances, those are the kinds of things that we help with. And what a lot of people don't realize is that in the United States, if you are convicted of a crime or accused of a crime, I should say, and you have to go to court, then you have a right to an attorney. That's not true on the civil side. So if you are sued by your landlord, or you are a victim of human trafficking and you have a criminal record as a result of the trafficking, you're on your own. And the other side, especially in housing matters or consumer matters, may have big, high-powered attorneys. And if you're low income, you can't afford an attorney. So our attorneys are not volunteer attorneys. Some programs use only volunteer attorneys, but we have attorneys on staff. They're Florida licensed. They're really good. They can work anywhere. They just, much like social workers, they choose to do this kind of work because they believe in helping people who need it. So we are primarily grant funded, and we do get some donations from private donors. We get money from local foundations. We're very happy about that. But we use those funds to pay the attorneys so they do the work, and then the clients don't have to pay. So it's very rewarding work. A lot of people don't realize how important it is to have a lawyer until they need one.
Yeah, and digging into that a little bit, can you sort of articulate how much how things would be different if everybody were on equal footing from a lawyer's standpoint?
Yeah, well, I mean, anybody who's ever been to court with an attorney probably already gets that. It's kind of like doctors and accountants. They have their own special skill set, and while you could do the things yourself, you're much better off if you have somebody that's their job, that's their profession. They're licensed to do it. They know the laws. They know the ins and outs. And sometimes it's not even just the law, it's the procedures. And for example, in eviction cases, a lot of times we can avoid an eviction just because the landlord hasn't followed the process, because they don't even know the process. So it makes a huge difference. And Florida is only one of only 3 states that doesn't fund legal aid at the state level. Because it is so important. And what's happening now is with the eviction crisis, which was happening even before the pandemic, but is certainly getting worse now, or will get worse shortly. Many cities even fund attorneys solely to represent people in housing situations, because it actually ends up saving the community so much money to have an attorney.
So how has, obviously evictions happen all the time for various reasons. It's exacerbated right now because people not being able to make income. So how has that landscape changed? And can you sort of give us a, on the ground overview of the eviction situation?
Well, it's, we're torn because we understand that the landlords, they're private individuals in a lot of situations too. They need the money, and they have a right to the money, and they deserve the money. So if there's a situation where we can just help to mediate, just to buy the individual some time so that they don't end up with all their belongings literally thrown out on the front yard or put in the garbage, that in and of itself is a huge help. Many times we'll even find that landlords may even be facing problems with their mortgage. So if we can help them settle things with their mortgage, then in turn, the client doesn't get evicted. So because
they work up the food chain a little.
So it can be very complicated, and there's all sorts of things happening. And certainly, if you don't pay your rent, then your landlord has every right to evict you or to demand rent. But right now, we have such a strange situation that it's not like the client didn't want to pay their rent; they just lost their job, and it was out of their control. So many of the landlords are being very good about working with us, but we do encourage every individual to contact us or some kind of attorney, just to help walk them through the process. Because if we can buy them a little time, if we can help them to negotiate some type of financial arrangement so that it doesn't come to an eviction, that's the best possible outcome. Because here's the other thing: in the state of Florida, when you have an eviction filed, after 7 years, it comes off your credit report, but it doesn't ever come off the court record. So it will go forevermore that you had an eviction file against you. That's going to make it even harder to get housing in the future. And you, a lot of times, won't even get the opportunity to explain the fact that, hey, it was during a pandemic. I lost my job. It wasn't because I'm a deadbeat. I could not pay my rent. So we really, really, really want to prevent the eviction, which is a lawsuit, from being filed in the first place.
And are you often able to get in contact? Or are you able typically to connect with people before that's filed, or is it usually after that's filed?
It's a little of both. If people know that we exist, legal aid is like the best kept secret. People don't know we're here, which is why I'm really, really grateful for opportunities like this to let people know that we exist. Not that we need more clients, because we have plenty of clients who do find us, but I want people to know that they do have options, because we do, to answer your question, get people before and after. A lot of times what will happen is when they get served, our phone number appears at the bottom of the notices from the court. So they can call us at that point. So we do get a lot of people that way, but we really, really would like to get them before the eviction is filed.
So is it fair to say that with the current moratorium on evictions, those are not forgiving the rent, they're just deferring the rent? So one big looming problem we have is that there's going to be people who haven't worked for 3 months who are going to have 3 months worth of rent due essentially as a lump sum when they're outside the protection of this moratorium.
Yep. And and it sounds great to say, okay, well, we'll extend the moratorium, but unless they extend the moratorium beyond the reopening, it's still going to be a problem. Because if you didn't have $1,000, because let's face it, rent is not cheap. Affordable housing is considered housing that only consumes 30% of your income. Well, I don't know about you, but 30% of your income just to pay for your mortgage or your rent, that doesn't leave a whole lot of money to live. So if they have $1,000 that's overdue in May because they got laid off in late March, and then they have another 1,000 due for June, to say that the moratorium goes through even the middle of June, which it doesn't yet. I think they just extended it today, I want to say to May 29th. If you couldn't afford to pay $1,000 last month, and you're still unemployed, then how are you going to be able to pay $2,000 next month? We're just delaying the problem. And so we are bracing ourselves, because we know that we are just going to be flooded with people when everything reopens. And we're working on a phased reopening right now, and we're not even sure how that's going to look at this point, because it's almost impossible to get all the PPE we need.
So, and beyond evictions, what other services do you offer, and have you seen changes in those because of being quarantined and because of the additional stresses that are coming with the pandemic?
Yeah, well, eviction gets a lot of press, but something else that people may already be aware of is there's a significant spike in domestic violence. Because when you take two people who already have a contentious relationship, and then you tell them you have to stay at home, and then you add a financial stressor to that because one or more of them have lost their job, it is just a disaster waiting to happen. And so we have already seen an uptick in calls, but we think that once people are able to get out and move around a little bit more, that we're going to get even more calls. Because right now it's not like if you're being abused, you can sneak back into the back bedroom and have a Zoom meeting with us, doing everything remotely. So we know that we're going to get hit. Some of the shelters like CASA, they're already feeling it. A lot of times legal aid is almost like the second line of defense in an emergency situation, whether it's hurricanes or pandemics or whatever. We don't give the food and the shelter, but once people get a meal, or they get to a shelter, then they realize, oh, hey, I need my benefits. And so then, if they need help appealing, then they come to legal aid. Or if they are not able to get their unemployment, they come to legal aid. Or if they need an injunction for protection or child support or help getting a divorce from their abuser, that's when we step in. So we really expect to see a lot of those types of issues. We have already had calls about people who've had problems getting their unemployment. At this point, there's not a lot we can do because we can't get through either to the to the different agencies, and we just have to tell people just keep reapplying and keep waiting, because there's nothing anybody can do on that. But in regards to things like wage theft, if you've had an employer who owes you money, we can help with that. Again, the domestic violence, more than just getting the injunction for protection, that's great because that'll keep the abuser away from you, hopefully, for a while. But if that abuser was the person who provided all of your financial support, then you need a child support order in place, or to help to get alimony, or whatever the situation may be. Sometimes they even need paternity established. So we do a lot of family law. We do consumer work, which runs the gamut of all kinds of things regarding credit or wage disputes. We also have a low-income taxpayer clinic. So if people are getting notices from the IRS and they need help negotiating that, if they're low income, we can help with those issues too. So we're seeing a little bit of everything.
So what are the qualifications to be able to use your services?
Basically, unless you're 60 years or older, you're 60 or older, then we can help you. No questions. Other than, we want to verify your age. But if you are low income, which just in general terms, that means about 200% of the federal poverty level, we can help you. If you are a victim of domestic violence, we don't even really have to qualify you based on income either. So there's lots of different ways that you can lots of different doors you can come through, so to speak, as far as eligibility goes.
And most of the people that you work with, which do they come from? When you say doors people walk through, do they come from referrals from other agencies or direct reach out?
Both. We do a lot of outreaches. We do probably, when things are normal, we do about 50 outreaches a month with a lot of our sister agencies, and we get lots of referrals. We work very closely with the free clinic and with the We Help program. With Daystar, they're amazing. We get referrals from Goodwill. We get referrals all day long from CASA and from RCS and Lutheran Services. I mean, you name it, we get referrals.
It's wonderful. Well, thank you for the information. I've enjoyed it. I'd like to finish up. You have a real, when you talk about what you're offering, you have a real passion for it. Can you share with us to finish up why you chose to get in this line of work and what gets you out of bed to do it every day?
Well, it is very rewarding, and I grew up poor. My family would have qualified for our service, and I saw particularly members of my own family, my mother, my grandmother, as victims of domestic violence. And I really think that if they had had an attorney in their corner, things could have turned out much differently for them. They could have gotten out of those situations much earlier. And so I get it about the need. I'm not an attorney. I'm a nonprofit administrator, which I dare say that the attorneys that work with us probably appreciate that, because then I leave them alone, let them do their job, and don't try to tell them how to do it because I don't know how. And then they seem to appreciate my help with all the budget and the administration pieces. But what motivates me is when I read our client stories and when I see how much of a difference it can make in their life. We had one elderly woman who, this may sound like it was nothing, but to her, it was a lot. She had somebody, totally scam her on an air conditioner. They sold her an air conditioner as new. It broke down. She thought it was under warranty. It wasn't under warranty because they had taken it from somebody else's house and installed it at her house. She took out another loan because, in Florida, you don't necessarily have a right to air conditioning. You do to heat, which is kind of crazy because, we don't really need that very much down here. But I'm a native Floridian, I can say that. So she needed an air conditioner. She took out a loan. Then she was behind on both loans. And so one of our attorneys stepped in, helped to get all of that resolved. The first company paid her back. She was able to get all of that off of her credit, and and then she got that loan taken care of, and she had her air conditioning. So it sounds like something really minor, but this woman was so great. And you know, something happens when you get a call from someone who says, this is, you know, Jane Doe's lawyer. I need to speak to someone. Suddenly they pay attention. So I just have the utmost respect for what the staff does. They're incredible. I couldn't ask for a better team of people to work with. So that's really what motivates me to get up. And I can't wait to get back in the office and be around all of them, because this is crazy working from home every day. I work more now than I did when we were in the office, I think.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, Tammy Greer, Executive Director, Gulf Coast Legal Services. Pleasure to connect, and we'll see you back in the building here sometime soon.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.